I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Welcome to the second episode of Golf Australia Magazine's new preview and tipping show, Playing from the Tips, where we take you through all the happenings and goings-on from the world of professional golf in the week ahead. Jim Emanuel here in the driving seat, where this week will look at the PGA and WPGA Tours of Australasia, the return of the Live Golf League for 2023, PGA, LPGA and DP World Tours. Joining me on the journey this week is a man who, perhaps outside my dad, is happiest to have heard me announced as host of this show, given it finally means he's on a podcast he's not in charge of. Rod Morri. Rod, welcome back. Anything particularly getting you excited this week?
I'm a terrible passenger in a car, and I think I'm a shocking guest on a podcast. I'm too used to being in the driver's seat.
We look forward to more feedback on that as we keep going with this new show. And rounding out the group of so-called experts for this week is a man who opened his tipping resume with a win last week and is salivating at the chance to take us through his designated event for the week a little bit later on. Adrian Logue. Logue, do you want to get your gloating out of the way now?
Torbjorn Olesen was my man last week, and he came through. My other tips went all right too. I'm just saying. I
don't think he mentioned you in his victory speech.
No, but
anyway.
And before we do look ahead at this week, a quick recap of how the tips fared last week. Logue, obviously, with Thorbjorn Olesen as the winner of the Thailand Classic, our best and only win of the week, while I personally had Jason Day for a top 10 at Riviera. So those results bring the collective so-called experts to 5 wins, 28 top 10s so far in 2023 across the written and vocalised versions.
Imagine if any of us could play. You'd be making as much money as John Rahm if we could play.
Imagine if any of us listened to our own tips, then we'd be making as much money as John Rahm at the moment. But anyway, first up, we're staying at home in Australia for the WebEx Players Series, which heads north to Sydney after David Micheluzzi's triumph on Sunday at Bonnie Doon, with TPS Hunter Valley at Cypress Lakes Golf and Country Club, hosted by two legends of Australian golf, Peter O'Malley and Jan Stevenson, and also in Logue Country.
It is indeed Logue Country. My dad was a member at Cypress Lakes and played there quite a lot as a kid. Enjoyed it.
It's worth noting that the field for this week compared to some of the other TPS events and Vic Opens isn't quite as deep because the men's tour heads over to New Zealand for a fortnight next week. So after four weeks in a row, they're a few taking a break. But Cypress Lakes, as we mentioned, welcomes the event for the second time, and we'll actually get a chance to show what it's like as a golf course. And after last year's absolute downpour of rain in the lead up that meant players actually did their practice rounds without playing golf, walking barefoot, and I threw out a pair of shoes at the end of the week covering that tournament. So designed by Steve Smyers, an American, it opened in 92, measures just under 6,500 metres with scaled tees for the men and women this week. Early example of sort of resort golf in Australia, and it's sort of got a new lease of life under the Oaks Hotel Group, who took it over a number of years back when it was probably in a bit of trouble. Plenty of water, plays along some of the vineyards of the famed Hunter Valley, which I'm sure we'll get a test from the players and officials on site this week. Much more open front nine, and then it gets a bit more tree-lined on the back. It's not the original routing that they play these days. The old first, which is the one that curves around the water out the front of the clubhouse, par 5, is now the 14th, where Josh Armstrong took a most ridiculous line I've ever seen last year, where there's a hospitality tent left that's for weddings and functions, and he just hit it clean over that, which I would have thought was in a hotel room, but was actually in the middle of the fairway. So split fairway at the 17th hole, and then uphill par 4 18th, that the two playoff contestants last year would have been sick of seeing it after they went down at 4 times on Sunday.
Indeed.
That pair that were the arguably biggest and smallest players in the field last year.
It was like the Winfield Cup.
Yeah, exactly right.
Together.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Great reference.
Yeah,
fantastic.
beautifully done.
Aaron Pike, the eventual winner, who defeated Kiwi Momoka Kabori, who now plays on the Ladies European Tour. Pike's back on home soil this week and headlines the list of players to watch after a couple of weeks in Europe. best in Thailand of the Aussies last week. This is a golf course that plays very well for those with good wedge games and creativity. One of those people is David Micheluzzi, who won last week in Sydney.
Everything suits him at the moment, though, doesn't it?
Well,
He's
that's right.
Playing well.
Over last weekend at Bonnie Doon, he told me every day that his golf swing felt awful. He had no idea what was happening with it, but he still managed to shoot 61 on Sunday, which I'd like to do with awful.
That's when you know you're starting to play really good golf. When bad golf is good.
And he's red hot form, as we mentioned, but he's basically got a DP World Tour card locked up, courtesy of the Order of Merit. He doesn't want to say that, but I will. Dave, you got a European Tour card. And you sometimes feel a little bit unsure about someone coming off a win, but not a drinker, Dave. So his celebration was going to be a couple of Coca-Colas and maybe a Guzman and Gomez burrito. So he should be ready to go again.
It's pretty badass.
Well, it's what he did after the WPGA, and he said that worked pretty well. So
that would look good on a golf bag, Guzman Gomez.
Oh,
there's a sponsorship that they should consider.
A burrito golf bag.
Yeah.
Oh,
burrito thing.
You could do a lot with the shape.
The head covers could be a bit of lettuce. Oh, I like that. Guzman and Gomez, reach out if you're listening. Right. That's right. Dean Lawson was one of his main challengers last week, who put a new set of irons in the bag on Wednesday, hit 30 golf balls and went, yeah, they're all right. Went out and played in the Pro-Am and shot 59. Top 10 here last year as well, so he's one to keep an eye on.
Imagine what he could do if he wore a glove.
Imagine what he could do if, and I'm sure Dan won't mind me saying this, he's actually himself off the grog since August last year and has lost a lot of weight. So when you watch Dean on the TV and he's constantly tucking his shirt in, it's because he likes the feeling of putting on his shorts that are too big for him and going, geez, I've done well here. And I suggested to him on Sunday he might buy a new pair of shorts with his prize money. But
it's just constant affirmation.
Yeah, exactly right.
These shorts are too big. Oh, no, that's right. I'm too small.
Exactly. He just kept saying, it's the greatest thing in the world. You put on your shorts and you go, look at how good I'm going. Great so stuff. Digger, one to watch. Another one, Dimi Papadakis, who returns to Australia like Pike after 2 weeks on the DP World Tour. Played well here last year, not far from home on the central coast of New South Wales. And sticking with the men's side, there's some familiar names that we don't see in tournament golf much these days, including Nick Flanagan, still a very, very good player, Nathan Green, PGA Tour winner, and Kurt Barnes.
Wow.
Returning from, I believe, working in the mine since he gave it away after playing in Japan for a number of years. Barnesy, who comes from Muswellbrook, and who I played a lot of golf with once upon a time when I thought I could play
character. Golf. Fiery.
Hits the ball so far, but kind of only when he wants to.
Yeah.
You know, I remember him telling me to chase one, and I'd never heard a sound like that off the club face. On the women's side, there's a few missing this week, but Kelsey Bennett remains one to watch as she gets her professional career underway. Steph Bunke as well, who will be looking to make amends for signing an incorrect scorecard on Friday last week.
That rule does have to go.
Yes,
it's 2020. It's time.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
And I can tell you, I got a very up-close look at how her game was tracking. And
you were impressed, weren't you?
I'm exceptionally impressed. I've known she's a good player. Mike Clayton and I have spoken about her a number of times about how good of a hitter of the golf ball she is. I actually happened to carry her bag for the first 2 rounds brilliantly on day one for a 5 under, I must say. And she, if with a bit of confidence and commitment to the shots she's hitting, she could play well at a place like this where there's a lot of tees because it's a resort golf course. So they might have a bit of a mix, and she gets an advantage over much of the other women in the field. So if it's set up to play well for them, she can take advantage.
Question without notice for a player like that: how important is a good or professional caddy? I feel like it was a game changer for Min Woo Lee when he turned pro and finally started working with professional caddies. Todd Sinnott is one I've always thought the same thing, that a really good professional caddy could do wonders with a player like him. Would you put her in that sort of class?
Yeah,
it's that final piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. I think a caddy who's done it knows how it works with other players and reads the player. That's a big part
that the player
of
can have confidence in.
Correct, yeah.
I think it was for Adam Scott when Steve Williams got on the bag, things changed for him, which sounds ridiculous at that level. When he turned around and saw Steve Williams there, it was a vote of confidence in Adam Scott. And I think for a player like Steph, turn around and see a caddy you know has been there and done it with other really good players, it's a vote of confidence in you that they're prepared to carry you back.
Yeah, early in the first day talking about, I like how we're working through this. You've given me some good clubs already. So I just need to commit to what we've decided. And I said, yeah, and if you hit a bad shot, you hit a bad shot, and then we get over it. So, yeah, I think that's a lot of players on the Australasian tour because there's not a lot of caddies around. There's some good ones who do work out here, but most go overseas like the players do.
Caddies need to be paid.
No, exactly.
There's not a lot of money in tournament golf in Australia.
And they would benefit hugely, even from a couple of rounds, to learn how it works. On the amateur side, keep an eye on local boy Jai Picken, who is a serious talent and knows the golf course well. So too Ellis Skaysbrook, who won the junior event last year and is in the main field this year. Also, interestingly, we've got a auntie and nephew in the field. Jay McKenzie, winner on the PGA Tour of Australasia. His auntie Geraldine Brown, who I've known for a long time, and former ALPG player when it was called that, is dusting off the clubs and having a hit this week as well.
I'll tell you how old I am. I first encountered Geraldine Brown at the Junior Girls New South Wales Championship, where she was in trouble because her skirt was too short. Back in those days.
There you go.
And she's always been outspoken about this sort of stuff. And even at the age she would have only been 16 or 17 then, she was outspoken about that at the time too. I think they sent her home to get you. It was crazy what had happened. But yeah, that's how long I've been around.
Well, I've been around. I've known her and I've known Jay since he was a little kid. And I mentioned to Karen Lunn, head of the WPGA, that how old that made me feel. And she said, how old do you think I feel? I played with Matt Goggins' mum. So, but the final one to watch, and also my personal tip for this week, is Reen Gibson. Won on the Corn Ferry Tour a couple of weeks back in Colombia, coming home for the first time since COVID to visit the family in Lismore. Most known for his world record 55 for 18 holes a number of years back. But he's been a PGA Tour player, makes a truckload of birdies, was coming home to visit the family and thought, I may as well peg it up in a local tour event. So I think he's a sort of a fairly high-class player that'll stand out this week.
Bit of a hitch in his backswing, though, doesn't he?
Yeah. Holding back.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
You know, I do know him a little bit. I can get you in touch with him if you want to drive up and fix him up if you like. Given all that, Logue, a tip from you?
Andrew Martin is my pick. He's like a TPS specialist. He's in good form. This is his week again.
Andrew Martin is one of those guys that you'd be safe tipping every week at home because he's going to bob up.
He's going to be around there somewhere.
Yep. It makes a lot of birdies and stuff.
No hitch in his swing.
No hitch?
Yeah.
No.
Makes plenty of eagles.
Yeah, big can do.
Maker.
Big world record eagle maker.
Yeah, absolutely. It was four, wasn't it? 4 at Bonnie Doon.
4 at Bonnie Doon in 2021, first year. Caddied in his group that year, actually, I did.
You're some kind of an omen.
Yeah, there you go. Rod, thoughts from you?
I'm going to go with Laurie Flynn, who did not stick in the mind until he shot 60 past week at Bonnie Doon. Didn't collapse on Sunday in any way, shape or form. Tough to back up from around a 60 and finished tied third here last year behind the 2 playoff participants. So all of that adds up to, I think, a good week for Laurie Flynn. And this just points to, again, and I don't want to keep banging on about it every week, but what a joy it is to sit down and turn the golf on every Sunday and get familiar with these players.
I've been a big fan of Laurie Flynn since about 10 minutes ago.
When I first mentioned him and you wrote it down for the first time. But just watching Micheluzzi yesterday, you can't find more entertaining golf than that.
No.
I mean, the Genesis Invitational was exciting and interesting. Wasn't more exciting and interesting than watching Micheluzzi light up Bonnie Doon.
Yeah.
And in their own ways, they're just as – and to have that back on television as a fan, you can there's lots of stuff to criticise about the tour and the broadcast and all sorts of stuff.
The broadcast is kind of good. It's got that guerrilla feel.
It almost
it's
exactly. It's almost
cool.
the fly on the wall documentary stuff, and it's just been fantastic. And again, tick to the PGA and everyone involved in that, because we put the boot in when we feel it's deserved, but give them the credit where it is. They have stumbled on something amazing, I think, with this TPS.
That last week had a bit of everything. I was out there all week, and you had Grace Kim, who was the best player in the field. I don't think anyone would argue that. Who on day 2 early got out there before the wind came up and just put on a clinic, and everyone went, here she goes, and she struggled the next day. You got Daniel Gale, a guy who keeps contending every single time. Jeffrey Guan, who's possibly the best amateur we've got and had for a little while in the final group. And then you've got the juniors mixed in there as well, which I'm quite confident his name is Ryan Wu, and who played in that last group and gave one of the best on-course interviews with Paul Gow.
Absolutely.
Where I mentioned to Gow afterwards, he said everything was the best experience he'd ever had. And he wrapped up the interview and then took a left turn because he'd hit in the trees and was taken unplayable. And I was wondering if it was the best unplayable he'd ever had. And also was on the end of one of the great accidental brushes for a handshake from Braith Anasta after things.
Is that right?
When Braith walked over to talk to us and he went to shake his hand, we sent Braith back, but Braith was exceptionally embarrassed, so it's worth mentioning.
Good entertaining TV.
Yeah, great.
Cannot
Fantastic.
speak against it.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Next on, we're going to head to Mexico for the Live Golf League debut, now that we call it a league.
Was it officially changed?
It's officially a league. Yes, that's right. So it's year 2. Teams are all set, we assume, because we're still waiting on confirmation of the reports that Thomas Peters, Danny Lee and Brendan Steele have joined. But
tenterhooks.
Tenterhooks. I mean, the golf world's waiting. There's been a few players scrubbed from the website. Wade Ormsby, interestingly, isn't listed, but he posted an Instagram story from the golf course today, so he is there. So it's
What do they have reserves?
Andy Ogletree, I believe, was the first reserve, basically, winner of 2 international series now. But he was the first reserve, so Hudson Swafford is also going to be out for a bunch of months with a injury, a hip surgery he's got to have. So there's going to be a bit of a mix in back and forth in the player rosters, I think. But the teams,
so the teams might have standby players. I mean,
I don't think it'll be the teams.
There's so
that
many
decide.
Hudson Swaffords too, in like professional golf.
Yeah, Hudson Swafford, Harris, English. Yeah. Interchangeable, you think?
Graham Hancock,
But
Patton Keziah,
yeah, that's right. First event.
Mitchell.
Keith
I
Mitchell.
think
That's
Mitchell's
a bit
got a little
harsh.
bit,
But he looks they all look the same.
True.
First
Go down to
event.
casting and get us a professional golfer.
Yeah, that's right. Who likely played golf at the University of Georgia. Yeah, that's right.
exactly
Yeah. First venue for the year is Mayakoba, which is a familiar venue because it's been a PGA Tour host for a number of years. That was designed by Greg Norman. Just over 7,000 yards. You've got holes alongside the Caribbean Sea and mangroves, and then very typical sort of resort course. Plenty of birdies. Most notable feature is ancient caves that they call sea notes, including one in the middle of the fairway. So they'll talk about those plenty.
Lots about that if you're going to watch the broadcast.
If you're going to watch the broadcast, which supposedly there was an announcement coming this week about TV in countries other than America, but again, we wait on tenterhooks to see if it'll be on.
I almost feel like a non-golf fan with this live thing, in that it's not. I'm not a supporter of live. I think there's issues around it, but I feel like a non-golf fan in as much as I don't understand anything that's going on, and I don't feel like they're doing a good job of explaining it to me.
No.
There's players on the ground who aren't playing. The Wade Ormsby thing. What are the teams? We're waiting to the end. It starts Thursday. We haven't announced it yet. I think they're all little mistakes. Granted, they've got a lot to think about, a lot to do, but by the same token, if this is the non-golf fan experience, it's not particularly satisfying at this point.
No, I think when they're trying to get everyone to follow teams and everything like that, and you don't know who's necessarily on some teams.
Year 2, they kind of needed to be across that from event 1, and it doesn't feel like they are.
There was an attempt to be with a bit of a launch of the teams, and some of them, including rebranding, like Ripper GC, Australia's team.
Well, everyone's talking about the Aces, though.
Everyone's always talking about the Aces.
The guy at the coffee shop across the road when I got these coffees, he's like, how about those Aces? You know?
Not the range goats?
No.
Not a range goat.
He's not a range goat.
Enough.
No.
Tips.
To quickly run through a bit of the players to watch as well, Cam Smith, of course, will be fascinating to watch after his year last year and see how he goes, given he'll be sort of a bit more here and there with his schedule. He did miss the cut at the Saudi International as well. Brooks Koepka missed the cut on the Asian Tour. He won't be happy about that. And he's also been a regular topic of discussion because of his feature in the Netflix documentary Full Swing, which is
Lots
brilliant.
of chatter about him wanting to go back to the PGA.
Yes, that's right.
Or that he's got buyer's
Potentially
remorse.
he's got buyer's remorse or seller's remorse. I don't know if he's a buyer or a seller.
Wonder how true that is.
But Full Swing that debuted last week, brilliantly reviewed by Adrian Logue on golfaustralia.com.au,
link
by
to
the
that
way.
in show notes.
Show notes. Phil Mickelson as well, another one to watch, given he's half of Phil Mickelson left after losing a lot of weight in the off-season. So we'll see how he goes. But Abraham Answer's probably the favourite, really. Mexican player, loves playing at home, very proud of his heritage, knows the golf course well, and won at the Saudi International as well. So he's probably the pick of the bunch. But
He's not your pick, though. It seemed like you're building to a different pick.
no, I'm going to let Rod make a pick first, and I'll pick last here. So Rod, can you give us a winner?
Cam, because he's Cam. He's technically the best player in the field. And, why wouldn't he? The golf course will suit him. Golf courses suit him. He really needs to sort of win. More than anybody else in that live golf thing, he's the world number 3. He needs to keep proving that in this company because he's going to be sliding down the rankings. And if he wants to keep being Cam Smith and keep being, near the top of world golf, He's got to be winning in this company. Realistically, who's he got as competition? The truth is, it's Dustin Johnson and him.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Logue, thoughts?
And I'll be taking Dustin Johnson.
Okay. Because he's Dustin Johnson? Is
Because
this
he's
the sort
Dustin
of
Johnson.
insight we're giving here at Playing from the Tips?
I think
Did Paulina fire up during the
Paulina
week?
said he's in form and he wants to win. So that's good enough for me.
Would have been more of a story if
We
she
all know that if you're looking for an accurate and honest assessment
Always
of a
ask the
player,
wives.
always ask
That's
their
some
partner.
good-
That's
Do you know what would be a
Inside
great
mail.
story if she'd said the opposite? If she said, "Oh, look, he's playing awful. He doesn't practice anymore. We've got all this money." And to be frank with you, I don't think he even really wants to be there. That would be a story.
he threw his elbow out. We were having a money fight the other day, and he just
That's right.
hurt
We were throwing
himself.
money at each other.
I am actually going to tip Abraham Answer because it's exceptionally obvious to me. Won recently. He knows the golf course, loves playing there. It's
The home thing will be important.
the home thing's super important to him. So that makes
Can you bet on these live golf things?
Yeah,
I assume
absolutely, you can. Yeah. So, but odds, of course, with a 48-player field, etc., is
think so.
as bad as anything. So, yeah, you've got to go with the hometown favourite, I think. So, moving on, we shift again to what used to be a PGA Tour standout event for field quality, the Honda Classic. But Rod, things are a little different this week.
They are indeed. Honda big in the world of golf this week. They've also got the LPGA event in Thailand, which we'll talk about soon. The Honda Classic, longest running sponsor on the PGA Tour. 1982 was their first year as sponsor of this event, so you would have thought they'd be one of the PGA Tour's favourites. The way the designated events have fallen, 2 in a row, you're not getting the world's best players to come back to the Honda
Wait
Classic
a
when it's
minute.
not designated.
This isn't a designated
Not
event.
a designated event.
I'm
They
out.
can't
I'm
all
out.
be designated events, Adrian. If they're all designated events, are any of them designated events? You know. This is home to the nauseating bear trap.
Mm-hmm.
Already sick of it. We haven't heard of it yet this year. PGA National, past 70, 6,500 metres, plenty of length. Nicholas and Fazio, originally 1981. Redesigns by Nicholas in 02, 14 and 18.
He is great
some-
at getting repeat work.
He is, and some bunker work this year. So Australian winners here, Stuart Appleby, Adam Scott, Matt Jones. The wind here can make it brutally difficult. We've seen some fabulous finishes here over the years. It did used to attract really good fields every year. That's been slipping the last couple of years, but this year in particular, they're really strong. They'll be disappointed not to be an elevated event. You would have thought the longest running sponsor on the PGA Tour would have felt in the box seat to be an elevated event, particularly a tournament that's been so popular with the top players over the years. So if there's something going on there, I don't know.
Well,
but
Honda have already announced they're not doing next year.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
right.
they've already said they're
right,
out.
yeah.
So, and who would blame them?
No, absolutely. I mean, you one of the
They've
biggest
been
supporters. And
messed around on the schedule with their week for the last few years.
yeah, well, it was a big part of the Florida swing for a long time that then became not a swing but a couple of intermediate
That's
stuttering movements, and so it makes total sense. Bear trap, I must say, like for tournament golf, it's quite thrilling to watch. But the fact that they've just drilled it into such a thing, and
Put a
there's
statue
there,
up.
it's
And we've still
everything
got
that's wrong with a PGA Tour event like
We've
that.
still got the snake pit to come at the Valspar and a few. Anyway. Sepp Straka defending. Weird final round last year. Daniel Berger started with a 5-shot lead and coughed it up. Not uncommon on this golf course. Can happen easily. If you get going the wrong way here, you can really get going. I think there's water on 16 of the 18 holes.
Did he fell into the bear trap?
He fell. I think it was all over by the time he got to the bear trap. I don't
The
think
bear
even
traps
had to
thing is
chase him.
water though, which I'm not
Water doesn't
that
bother these guys.
I'm not that across bears, but I don't think water bothers bears much. either.
Par 3 it does. Is it the 17th?
I think it's 17.
Long
with-
par 3.
Yeah, with
Adam
the,
Scott went in the water there
offset
and
green, the
still
diagonal
won.
green.
Yes.
Yeah, there's always people going.
Yeah, and it blows. The wind blows in
That's
there on
right.
funny angles.
A little
and
bit like
swirls.
12 at Augusta National. There's not really a good place to miss it either.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
long is no place to miss it because then you're just chipping back towards the water. And so it's a brutally difficult hole. It's the kind of hole you need to make these guys shake a bit, and they do, and especially if the wind's up. The year with Matt Jones one, I seem to recall him hitting a really good shot in there.
And
It's a Matt Jones type course.
Yeah, Matt
playing
Jones, yeah.
so fast while trying to win a PGA Tour event that the guy in his group hit driver, I think, on the last, and the camera was just catching the ball land, and Jonesy was already over
smack.
it and hitting it.
There you
Unbelievable.
There you go.
Out of all your research, have you found a winner, Rod?
Well, quickly, first Australians in the field, Aaron Baddeley. He's been reshuffled up because he's been playing quite well, so good luck to him. Greg Chalmers was first reserve. He got in. Cam Davis, I don't mind his chances this week, but he hasn't been playing well. Harrison Endicott, Min Woo Lee on an invite, and Cam Percy. My tip, Adam Svensson, the Canadian. Tied 9th here last year, tied 9th at the Genesis this week. There's something in that, and it's easier to pick big name players. I like the idea of somebody breaking through this week on one of the tour's older stops.
Logue, your thoughts?
Great to see Sydney local Harrison Endicott playing in this event. I think it'll be a big one for him. It's just a huge thing for him to be on the tour this year, and I'm expecting at least one of these initial events he's going to really put his hand up and show everybody what he can do. But my pick, this course, it's a test of execution. Sung Jae Im. He's good.
Very good.
Played well.
Won there before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
This kind of course.
I think Minwoo Lee deserves a lot of attention here, but first start of the year, Minwoo can be inconsistent coming out of the gates. But I'm actually going to go with Cam Davis despite 3 straight missed cuts. Because this place is perfect for Cam. He now hits it miles high in the air. He can hit those really hard long irons that don't move offline. Yeah. Driver is all carry. Wedge game is a big focus of improvement, and he's been working at it. So
3 missed cuts means nothing at this level.
No, and I think Cam Davis is one of these guys that's going to really shine in these non-designated PGA Tour events where they're weaker fields, and he stands along there and goes, hey, I'm one of the best players here.
And he's a winner.
Yeah, that's right.
He's not just a good player, he's a winner.
Yeah.
He wins when you don't expect him to. He wins with amazing final rounds. If he gets the bit between his teeth, he is a winner. He closes. So
part of a stable that Coach Khan Pullen is building that includes Grace Kim as well. Yeah. Unsung quality coach, Khan.
Very much so.
Well done to him.
Don't write off Padraig Harrington either, by the way. Finished second on the Champions Tour last week. Loves this place. 2-time winner here. His sort of golf course. And having a second life as a professional.
Yeah. And hitting it miles as a champion.
I heard him on a podcast this week. He's happy. He's relaxed. He's enjoying life. He goes out to dinner and socialises and does all the stuff he never used to do as a tour pro. It's amazing. I feel better. I play better. So don't write him off. He's just the sort. When he watched Mickelson win that PGA, I think he finished 4th. Only a few months younger than Mickelson. I think he sort of went, hang on a minute, we can still do this. So,
I'd like to see Padraig bring back the glasses on the golf course.
Great.
A great look. Also, the bespeckled Laurie Flynn mentioned earlier. Maybe the best bespeckled player on
Rain
tour.
Is about the only Rain and Mist are the only things that are going to stop Laurie this week.
The intersection of being left-handed and bespeckled.
It's
like
it's
right
rare.
on the intersection there.
Yeah, that's a
Come on, let's move on. I'm a studio
golfer.
booking shortly.
Staying with you, Rod, let's look at the LPGA Tour, which makes its full field debut for 2023.
Staying on the Honda theme.
Yeah, double Honda theme. This has been a really important tournament. You say full field, it's a limited field event with no cut, but yes, it's a first sort of event of the LPGA season or LPGA year. Siam Country Club in Thailand, par 72, 6,000 metres, plenty there. The scoring here tends to be outrageously good. On the calendar since 2006, and all but one of those tournaments hosted here. 2008 they didn't play. Since 2016, every year you've had to shoot more than 20 under to win. Now, we get used to these scores. You get desensitised to it. 20 under is 5 under each day. More than 20 under is an average of more than 5 under each day for 4 straight days. So that tells you how good the players are and how the course plays. Nana Kurtz-Madsen, the fiery Nana Kurtz-Madsen, defending champion. They do have a great list of past champions here. Aria Jatanagarn 2021 was probably the most memorable. When she was 17, she double bogeyed the last hole here to lose by 1 to Inbee Park as an amateur. And I reckon that set her career back a couple of years. That was a devastating thing to have happened in front of her homeland. This tournament, and in fact that incident's part of the folklore of that, probably what has led to what we see so many Thai players now on the LPGA Tour. A real boom in the game. Don't know.
Well, I think Thai Tidikul finished second that year, I believe.
In 2013?
No, to
to Aria in 2021.
To Aria when she won.
Quite possibly. Yeah, that's right. So we've seen this crop of players and this tournament.
By the way.
An actual example possibly of growing the game. Maybe. Certainly growing the professional game.
Siam Country Club certainly grew a number of years ago. It's got 5 golf courses.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is this some sort of composite? Imagine if you had a whole...
No, they're all at different properties.
Oh, right.
This is, I believe...
shuttle buses between them.
The old course, then there's the Waterside course where they played the Women's Amateur Asia Pacific last year, and they're all in different parts of Pattaya, and then there's one up in Bangkok as well. So
this one is in...
Pattaya.
Yes. Chonburi. Anyway, Australians in the field, Hannah Green, Minji Lee. They're the only two you've got to finish, I think, in the top 70 or something, money list or whatever to get a start. So they're the only two who qualified. And lots of local invites this week who we've not heard of. Good chance the winner will come from them. But in terms of a tip for established players, everybody's going to say Lydia Ko. Rightly so. Is she beatable at the moment? So I'm going to go with Lexi Thompson, 63-66 to close out in Saudi Arabia at the weekend. Has played well here before. Former winner, I think, a couple of years ago. So I'll go with Lexi.
Cool. Logue, your thoughts?
I'm going with Lydia Ko. Unsurprisingly, it's not really putting myself out there, but I'm.
That branch is not going to break from your weight being out on the end of it.
She's playing so well. Like, what a pleasure it was to watch her last week, actually. And playing so well, she was seemed in tremendously good mood as well. And she's in a good space. And
8 rounds on a honeymoon and a hole in one.
Yeah. Yep.
How good's she going?
Yep.
23, the year of Co.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Number one.
I think exceptionally hard to beat this week. But
the only way you'd tip against her this week is if John Rahm was in the field.
Well, I'm going to tip against her because I don't want to match Logue's tip. So I'm going to go with the Taya Titical, who, local player, great year last year, a genuine rising star. Something
the Abraham
said about
answer
way
of
too
this
many
field.
people. That's right.
The Abraham answer of this field.
Perhaps a more credentialed player than Abraham.
She still kind of flies under the radar, I think.
Absolutely.
She did for years. I watched her play in the New South Wales Women's Open at Dubbo, and I was staggered how good she was. She's clearly so much better than the other players of it. She had like a D game and finished 4th or 5th. She could not have shot worse than 4 under.
What a field in retrospect that Dubbo New South Wales Open had.
Some pretty good players. It was a great event.
Yeah.
Taking that there was – and the people who came out and supported, the crowds were fantastic. The venue was good. Everything about it was it was good fun.
Tournament that was announced to be moving to Yamba Golf Club, I think, next year.
Going with that regional idea, that works.
Well, Yamba Golf Club was one of the main places I learnt to play golf myself, and absolutely outstanding country golf in northern New South Wales. And finally, we're going to take a move to India for the Hero India Open. And Logue, I'm sure you've got undoubtedly high praise for the host venue this week.
I do. I'm very excited about the European Tour this week. DP World Tour. Hero Motorcorp sponsoring the Hero Indian Open at DLF Golf and Country Club. A little bit of history on the Indian Open. It was actually Peter Thompson who founded the Indian Open in 1964 and promptly won it that same year.
Did he knock back an invitation to the Masters to play in the Indian Open one year?
I'm not sure if that was that year, but he did win. He always made it a priority. Yeah. This was after he'd already set up the Asian Tour. He decided, I want to do something. He'd always travelled to India on his way to the British. Yep. And he'd made a lot of friends there, and then he felt like they needed a national open because he was a big national opens guy.
We need another Peter Thompson. The game needs another Peter Thompson.
That's right. And anyway, so he set it up. The inaugural one was played at Delhi Golf Club, which Tomo would later go on to do some redesign work on as well as Royal Calcutta Golf Club. He did a bit of work on that.
That's great work to create a tour and create an event that you win and then get all the courses.
Pick up all the courses on.
Brilliant stuff.
And he won it 3 times, actually. 3 times Indian Open winner Peter Thompson. This week, it's not played at Delhi Golf Club anymore. It's played at the DLF Golf and Country Club. The titular DLF stands for India's biggest property developer, Delhi Land and Finance.
Mm-hmm. Land and Finance.
Yeah.
It's like a Toys R Us for developers.
They're
got everything.
This is at, I'm going to mess up the pronunciation of this, but Gurgaon?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Okay. There's DLF actually has a whole city, DLF City in Gurgaon. I messed it up now. And I feel like there's a Firestone vibe about this. You've got a company golf course, which is incredibly over the top. Everyone will recognize this course immediately. It's got the geotextile bunkers. I actually looked into this a little bit and I quite like them. There's a maintenance angle to this, which is pretty attractive. They're an artificial sort of thing. There's some sort of textile filled with sand and allows them to build the bunkers straight up in the air. It looks kind of ridiculous, but it's kind of awesome.
It's funky, isn't it?
Yeah, and all the bunkers have this flat bottom, but these steep faces, it's pretty spectacular sort of look. The maintenance cost is pretty low. There's this massive artificial quarry that they've built. That I don't know why they would have done that, but it's there. Apparently, it's just to get these amazing backdrops of weird rock formations, which are completely artificial. And there's an attractiveness to this. It's an anti-minimalist sort of course, this man-made aesthetic, and they've really lent into that man-made sort of look in a way that I think gives it a little bit of authenticity. and really pops on TV.
It's
So
a case of if you're going to do it, do it.
do it. It's
a wild
and
ride.
they've done it.
They
it's
have.
the poster
a
child for that.
wild ride this week.
Worker Gary Player,
Who did all this? Gary Player. Yeah, Gary Player design. He actually took a Arnold Palmer
Palmer
course
design, yeah.
that was built in 1999, the number one ranked course in India at the time, and stole 9 holes from that. Wow. Readers did this to it and had some adjacent land to create the second 9 holes. And there's still 9 holes of the Palmer course that remain. It's now like an under lights sort of thing that they have off to the side. So anyway, very entertaining venue. Australians in the field, Daniel Gale, Maverick Ancliffe, Jordan Zunick, Jared Felton, Blake Windred, and Anthony Quayle.
who posted a picture of one of those rock-fronted greens this morning with just a laughing face emoji. So Anthony's obviously enjoying DLF.
It is hilarious. A quote from Eddie Pepperell about the rocks. He says, "The great thing about the 17th hole in India is that it has 15,000 rocks and 15 fans. Most great 17th holes have 15 rocks and 15,000 fans."
Outstanding.
My pick for the week is the legend SSP Chowrasia.
Oh, absolute legend.
Yeah,
and you didn't want to have a go at what SSP stands for, did you?
I assume it's super special, but I don't know.
Yeah, not quite, but I don't like your chances of pronouncing it. And Rod, a thought from you in India?
Oh, well, I was going to go with SSP Chowrasia as well, but of course I can't. This golf course, it will eliminate a percentage of the field just because it's such a wild ride. There will be golfers who just won't be able to cope with it. So I think there's probably a bunch of the courses eliminated. Makes it hard to pick. I think lots of the locals I think will do well unexpectedly, but I'm going to go with Robert McIntyre, partly because I recognise the name and partly because it's about time he did something. Robert, you're better than your results recently suggest.
Everyone wants to keep saying how good he's going, and he won at the Ryder Cup host venue, and then he just goes out and plays no good. So he's a great character for the game. The game needs him to be successful and in the spotlight because he's one of the good guys. Yeah.
Calling out people who didn't call for at the Open. He's done a bunch of stuff. He's a good, solid sort of a bloke. He's got the game. Start using it, Robert. So you can't imagine. Well, maybe the only other place you might find golf this crazy might be Scotland, don't you reckon, Logue? In some weird and wonderful corners of Scotland, you might see crazy sort of stuff they're going to see this week.
I think Rob McIntyre, in the way that Rory doesn't actually play that great on Irish golf courses.
Yeah.
Rob McIntyre,
absolutely.
I think his game is more suited to this sort of a golf course.
Well, he went to Tennessee State University where Rory was going to go for all 3 seconds before he turned pro. Right. So spent a lot of his time.
So I'll go with Robert McIntyre, but to be honest with you, it's a bit of a lottery. And look, the star of this week's show, no matter who wins, is going to be this golf course. If you've got any interest in golf courses or just golf generally, this might be the
really
best watch
pops.
of the week. It pops and it drives the players insane.
Yeah.
You'll see some club throwing. You'll see some guys giving it the teapot.
Double teapot?
The double teapot. There'll be lots of that, It is a great, great watch. You wouldn't want it every week.
It's got an island green.
But has it got an island?
14th. I failed to mention that, 14th. Wow. I think they swapped the 9s at some point in the tournament. It used to be the 5th. It's now the 14th.
Right, okay. Yeah, but
it's one of those places where you'll see holes and recognise them, but not really sure, and then you'll see another hole that looks exactly the same as it and be like, maybe I recognise that
there's
one.
actually two. There's a Lake 9 and the Quarry 9. There's a distinct character.
Not unlike Joondalup in Western
Golf
Australia.
course,
There you go.
Exactly.
Golf course will be the star of the show this week, though, no matter what happens. And usually a good result here, too, because I think it's been a playoff the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been
Wallace won it.
Yeah. And it's an exciting playoff again because of the golf course. But for me, I think Daniel Gale will be interesting to watch because he might be the most confident golf pro on the planet at the moment. So he'll wander over there, but I don't think
action to go with the golf course, too.
Funky outfits too.
Yeah, you'd want to be confident to be wearing.
I did ask some questions last
he's
week.
wearing.
I was a bit, wow, I thought maybe he might not own a mirror. But anyway, I don't think Gailey will quite get over the line, but I think he'll contend. But my tip is Jen Hung Wang, who continues his comeback from military service in Korea, top 10 last week. He's got his membership extension that allows him to try and get his status back after winning on the then European tour. Really, really good ball striker, which you need to be around here. And he won't get hung up on the silliness of the golf course because he is just stoked to be playing golf again. He didn't hit a single golf ball while he was in the military for 18 months, and all he did was think about golf. So he is a big chance here. And that does it for another episode of Playing from the Tips. Keep up to date with all these events and more on our website, golfaustralia.com.au, where a very good read this week would be Rod Morri's own work on the Ladies Saudi International that was played last week. Very thought-provoking. And hopefully our attempts at tipping might bring you a winner come Sunday evening, and we'll be back next week, and we hopefully very soon will get my dad's favourite tipster Mark Hayes involved as well, because I got a call last week after the first episode that where's my man? So we'll be chasing Hazy and a bit of variety, but we hope you enjoy the week's golf, and we'll be back next week.